Hi, and welcome back to Bible History Man. Last we talked, Herod the Great had conquered Jerusalem and now sat as king in Jerusalem. Well, who is this guy, Herod the Great, and why the Great? Well, let's just dispel the myth that he wasn't the Great, because there's a reason why they call him the Great. It was because he was a great builder. First of all, he built lots of cities. He built the city of Sebaste on the ruins of Samaria and put a big fortress in it. He built the Antonia, which is a fortress right next to the temple. He built the city of Caesarea. When you read in the New Testament, Caesarea is the coastal city where he set up a harbor, and the Romans, they all like to live down there. The Roman governor, if he's not showing up for some special function, he lives at Caesarea. And if you go down to the Holy Land, all in archaeological sites, all the big important things, the chances are pretty good that Herod built them. He built a number of fortresses, and of course, he built the temple. Bigger and grander than anybody in the Asmoneans did. He also built both a theater and an amphitheater in Jerusalem, for which he was not nearly as popular with the Jews as he was for building the temple. Herod was always trying to please the Romans. Because of that, he held games once every 5 years. It had gladiator games. It had traditional Greek-style Olympic wrestling and racing events. Herod the Great was also known for his lavish generosity. There was a really big famine, and he sold a lot of his personal possessions to get food for the people in Judea. And he even lent food to people in other areas to get them through the time of famine. So he had a lot of great accomplishments. One of the things I like about studying Herod in history is that he's not just a dime store villain. He's not just there being evil for evil's sake. He's a real person. And like everyone else, he's the protagonist in his own story. And the other thing I like is that he's got the exact same personality in history as he does in the Bible. I'll tell you about him, and let's see if you don't agree with me. When Herod comes into power, he's got a unique problem. You see, he's an usurper and everything. And yet, he desires all the glory for himself. He wants to be a great king. He wants to be remembered as a great king. He wants people to be in awe of him, to love him, to celebrate him, and all of those things. And he has to balance the traditional Jewish sensibilities and the desires of his Roman masters. And so he's going to have to walk a fine line. In addition, he is going to marry into the family of the Hasmoneans when he comes into power. He's going to marry Mariamne, who is going to be descended from the king that he's going to defeat. And this is going to be the wife that he has. He has 10 of them in all that he loves the most. And this is to give him a certain amount of credibility and legitimacy in the sight of the people. But he's got this problem. You see, Antigonus is still alive, and he can't stand the fact that people might be looking upon him as the noble deposed king and him as the villain. So he's going to have Antigonus killed. After he has Antigonus killed, he's going to have to deal with constant plots and troubles. You see, having 10 wives, he's going to have lots of sons, and it's going to turn his palace into a brood of vipers with the scheming and people trying to take power. Also, he has to balance his own family, the descendants of his father Antipater the Idumean, against the Hasmonean part of his family. Now, he loves Mariamne, and he's going to have 2 sons with her in order to have descendants after him that are legitimate. He's going to have 2 sons. Alexander and Aristobulus, he's going to send them off to Rome so that they can be friendly with the Romans as well. And at the same time, he's going to have to deal with the constant fighting and plotting against Mariamne by his sister Salome. So in addition to having to balance the Roman side of his service with the Jewish side of his service so that he can be pleasing in both their sides, he has to deal with the plotting between the Hasmoneans and his own Idumean family. This sort of thing is going to come to a head later when he's going to get into a certain amount of trouble with Mark Antony. And so he's going to have to go to Mark Antony, and it's not sure how things are going to go with him. And he knows that if something should happen to him, that Mariamne is going to have the political power to do damage to his brothers and sisters and that side of the family. So he's going to give orders that if something should happen to him, that Mariamne has to be killed for the safety of his sister and the rest of his family over there. And unfortunately, the guy who's ordered to do it does not keep his mouth shut. So when he comes back, still in one piece and still with his kingdom in his hands from Mark Antony, it's going to chill things off between him and Mariamne to no small extent. And it's not going to be the only time it happens. Later, after Mark Antony is defeated, he's going to have to put his crown in his hand and go beg for his kingdom from Augustus. And Augustus is going to say, well, you've been a good friend to Mark Antony. And Herod's going to say, I wish I could have been a better friend. And he's like, can you be such a good friend to me? And then Herod's going to say, yes, I can. And so then they're going to have an official friendship. He's going to go back. And once again, Mariamne is going to be very upset because of the orders given to kill her if something should happen to him. And she's going to be really bitter because, is she allowed to survive him? Well, obviously she's not allowed to survive him, not even a little bit. Hyrcanus II, if you remember, had been the ethnarch. Well, when Antigonus had taken Jerusalem, he had deported him back to Babylon after chopping his ears off so he couldn't be high priest anymore. Well, now they treated him nicely in Babylon, and once Herod took over, he's going to ask for Hyrcanus back. And he's going to be in the palace, but he's going to get a lot of sympathy from the people, and after a while, he's just not going to trust him. And so he's going to have old Hyrcanus II put to death as well, just before he goes off to talk to Augustus about receiving his kingdom. Well, that's another one of my episodes. Thank you so much for watching the whole way. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I love to answer questions. And if you're interested in it, I would love to talk about it. Also, if you have any other ideas about things that I could tell you about biblical history, I'm always open to suggestions, because it's what you want to hear that I would like to talk about. Now, if you like biblical history, like I like biblical history, or even a fraction as much as I like biblical history, I have a book out called A Helpful Handbook of Hebrew History. And it's available on WisePath Books or Amazon.com, and the links are in the comments below. Now, I would recommend that you would read a book instead of listening to videos all the time, because as an educator, I know it's much better for your brain, especially if you're not an adult yet. If you're still a youth, your brain is better if you read. So I would recommend that you read that book.